good morning. It's me. If you haven't met me before, my name's Sunday. And welcome to Healing Parents Group. And this is a group that I set up in 2016. And you're about to, to witness me in a little bit of grief today. And this, what I've come to see as a safe place, and depending on how this goes, it may go up onto my YouTube channel or it might not. And before I start off, I just want to let you know that I'm opening up on, hello, good morning, Janie, on the 10th, Sunday the 10th at 6 p.m. UK time. I'm opening up the Zoom room, the monthly calls that we have. I'm opening up the Zoom room so that we can all come in and share our story, if you would like to. So depending on how many people rock up to that, depends how it goes. If there's just a few of us, I'll keep us all in the same room. And if there's more than a few of us, we'll get the chance to talk to maybe in twos and threes with each other in breakout rooms. So if you'd like to come along to that. So this time of year is time for grieving and going inwards. And for those of us who've probably been grieving all bloody year over our situation, it can be a bit intense in these months of winter months. And somehow it seems magnified by the holiday season and all the brightness and the gatherings and all the joy, maybe, for a lot of people around this seasonal time. And the other day I was thinking about, I haven't cried for a while, and of course, once you put the order into the universe, the stuff arrives that helps to unlock the grief, the pain, the sadness, the loss. And I'm also facilitating a grief course at the moment, and this coming Tuesday we're discussing loss, and you know, everything is being stirred up in me and in a lot of people. And two things have happened in the last 2 days. One of which was that there was I live in a spa town in Yorkshire in England, and Father Christmas comes on a sleigh with some magnificent white horses, and the main road, Grove Road as it's called, with all the little shops, the all pretty Victorian type shops. They close the road, and that is the road where they do all the celebrating, and Father Christmas rocks up and there's a choir singing, and I just landed into this road without realising that it was, and also switches on the lights, the Christmas tree and the lights down the Grove. And so I walked into the middle of hundreds of people and families, with multi-generational families all sharing time together. And there was I on my own, and it didn't hit me at the time, and it did afterwards, you know, that was something that I don't participate in anymore. And there were little children wrapped around, like scarves wrapped around their parents' necks, you know, because they were wanting to see Father Christmas, and it was delightful. It was lovely. I loved it. I was participating and chatting with people, and then that was Saturday, and where are we now? Monday. And then afterwards I thought, you know, you reflect and you think, and then your memories. And I know some of us haven't seen our grandchildren. I've got one that I've never seen, and I know a lot of us have got grandchildren that we don't see. And I really understood, I forget your name, but that lady who's recently got a picture of her, looks like a 4 to 6 month old grandson. I can't stop looking at this picture. And I love that you do that, because on some way, on some energetic level, you're connecting with, I can't remember if it's little girl, little boy, I think it's a little boy. He's dressed in a pumpkin outfit. And I think we do connect through images and even through thoughts. And and then another thing that happened, that this morning on Facebook, somebody's father's died, and this family obviously are very close. There was her and her daughter and her dad, and she'd put together a montage of pictures to the tune of some Irish ditty around my old man, and now he's gone. You know, it was an Irish singer, and it was really emotive. And these pictures, excuse me, I think maybe I should put a trigger warning on this video so that people know that there's tears and sadness in it. It's just the way that they loved each other. And it's so brought back my dad to me, you know, even though we had, you know, even though he used to belt me and make me work and stuff like that, I know he loved me. And he's been dead for however many years, you know, and I still get this sadness for him. And then, of course, it piles into my mum, and then it piles into my girls, you know, and Stephen's great. I'm really lucky with Stephen, because I'll start to do my grief stuff and he'll just rub my back, you know, and say, "You all right?" And it's funny, he said to me, what's going on, what's happened? And that's the first question when somebody sees you crying. That's the first question that often comes out. And it's like in that moment, you can't really say, because you're just in these tears. It's clearing the vessel. And it's so misunderstood and so, what's the word? Feared is grief, you know. Like for some of you seeing me like this, you'll either back off because it'll stir stuff in you, or you might want to rescue me and make it better, you know. And sometimes, you know, I have said to people, you know, a certain thing that's upset me, and they'll say, "Well, it's not the end of the earth." And actually, I was thinking, it is the end of something, you know, it's the end of something. Tears does indicate grief is all around endings and loss and change, and yet most humans are so scared of it. And you know, I think as well, you know, I came out probably as a little kid, came out with lots of tears, and tears for my mum, because my mum had a stillborn, full-term stillborn before me, and I'm the last one of 5, and I think me being born was, I make it up that I was sort of like, there was an expectation of me to heal the family, in as much that a sort of a replacement for this baby that had died. It's been quite significant to me, and I have no idea how my mum coped with that, you know. Giving birth to a dead baby must be just hell. Makes estrangement seem a little bit all right in that sense. And I'm sad for my girls as well, because I see that their hearts are hard and closed, and I was chatting with Stephen as I've driven him to work, you know, and they've got 2 crusty programs to sort of crack open, you know, my side of the family and the dad's side of the family, and all the stuff that goes on in those families, you know, the patterns that we have, that the habitual patterns. And my family, you know, we were taught to laugh and be happy and be joyous and so I'm glad for that. And yet there was no space for us to fall apart and be in each other's arms. And, you know, my siblings have all had losses, and yet for me, or maybe because I'm the youngest, I don't know, but there doesn't seem to be, excuse me, I should have brought some tissues with me. There doesn't seem to be a space for us to comfort each other. And this lady who'd posted this video about her dad, there's a picture, this really got me. There's a picture of her dad and her daughter, and they're both looking at each other, and you can see that they're both crying. And it sort of makes you wonder, you know, like when people are going, when people are dying, that people often don't say, you know, goodbye. And I don't know whether that's true. But I know I actually didn't, my dad and I didn't actually get to say goodbye to each other. And my mum and I didn't either. And that must be really hard, because everybody knows that somebody's going, dying, but we don't, there's no sort of, it's avoided. And maybe that's just me, my experience, I don't know. But I also know, and I was talking to Stephen, that when I get like this, when we go into a grief spot like this, that I'm softer at the other side of it. And it's like hearts have to break to sort of get the softness that's inside. And I'm a noisy griever, you know, I make that keening noise, you know, because there is great loss and there is great feeling, and I do know, because I'm passionate and loving, that the depths of my sorrow is quite deep, you know. And people might say, and this is old judgments of myself, you know, God, you're so dramatic, Sunday. And, you know, I used to take that personally and make myself wrong. And obviously I was just too dramatic for them, because I'm perfect for myself. You know, the way that I grieve and the way that I do my emotions is perfect for me, you know. And I see that sadness disturbs a lot of people. You know, people can't hold each other's pain very easily. We either back away from it or we get cross, you know, and I had that a lot as a child, because I did cry a lot as a child. And I think I don't know, what was I crying for? I think probably lack of autonomy, lack of personal control, even at that age, you know. And there is something quite, when somebody's crying, even if it's a little child, it sort of taps us into some unprocessed loss, sorrow, mourning, grief inside ourselves. And I suspect that most people don't like to feel to that depth, you know, don't like to be prostrate. I can never say that right. Prostrate, you know, bereft with grief. And yet losing your children to estrangement is really a place to really get into the feelings. And they're overwhelming at the start, they really are. You know, I needed medicine, I needed medication to stave off those ones that at that point that I couldn't handle. And now I know, you know, last night I felt anxious in my tummy, and I don't often get anxious. Upset, I was with upset last night, and then this morning the gift of that video. And I felt, it's really interesting, I felt the emotion coming. And there was a voice that really came really fast and sharp and said, don't push it down. Feel it, let it out. Yeah, it's not the right time. You've got to take Stephen to work. You're still in bed. You know, actually when a little grief bubble comes, that's the time to sort of stop the world and just fall apart a little. So I'm trusting that this share will... support us all to not shy away. This season, if you're in the northern hemisphere, winter is a time for letting go, contemplation, going inside and looking at what still needs looking at and processing and letting go of. And you know, Mum and Dad have been dead for a long, long time, and yet I can still tap into the sadness, you know. And memories are lovely things to help us get into the grief work. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But I do know that every time I've swallowed it down in the past, it's either come out in another way or it's made me poorly. Or so emotions are really important to process, as much as laughter, you know, tears and sorrow. It has to be processed for us to be healthy. And it's not easy because we're conditioned to not feel those lower notes of our human emotional palettes, you know, that are we come into this world with every feeling available to human beings, and we shy away from those uncomfortable ones because we don't want to feel them, and that causes us such problems. You know, getting messy in public is not easy. And sometimes I think that little girl that got born 60 odd years ago somehow came in with all these skills that I've got and this courage to show up, you know, in all of it. I don't know. When you look at yourself, we are walking miracles, and we've all got a part to play. You know, we've all got a contribution to make. And sometimes those urges to contribute, to participate in life can be really challenging. You know, like coming on here was kind of easy, but not as well. You know, like bearing my emotions like this. And yet, you know, somebody last night, I was on a call last night and somebody said, you know, it opens up the space with you being like that. It opens up the space for others. I wished I'd brought a tissue. Oh, ugly crying. So, if you need permission to be a mess and roll around on the floor in emotional agony, as I suspect all of us have done at some point, you have my full permission to do so, to let this emotional pain out of your body. And this has all been about sadness, but I can tell you a time when I let anger out. That was a fun experience. I'll tell you briefly, I went to a workshop and I went to all sorts of things from 2003 to, I don't know, just recently. Workshops and retreats would pop up and I'd say, I'm off on that. You know, I used to go to everything. And this particular one, I don't even remember the title of it. It was somewhere in the Peak District in the UK, which is quite a hilly, remote area. So I was in this farmhouse with about, I don't know, 20 other people. and at the end of a country lane with no lights around or everything, quite retreating. And the facilitators, 2 of them, dragged out this full-size punch bag that was my height, you know, and they were holding it and said, "Who wants to go with this?" Well, my hand shot up. My body was like straight there to this punch bag, and I said, I want to. I've got loads of effing anger to release. And I was punching hard on this thing and swearing and cursing and naming people, which was, at the time I was thinking, there was a voice that was going in my head, "This is terrible, you're betraying certain family members." And it was everybody's name, you know, and I was saying what they'd done that I'd felt hurt by. And a couple of other participants, I think that we were mostly women, they had to leave the room because they couldn't cope with it. And even that didn't bother me at the time, because I thought, well, if they can't, they can't, you know, and somebody be looking after them. And I just kept beating the hell out of this thing till I was exhausted. And it felt so good to get all that anger out, and it wasn't on anybody, you know, and I obviously needed that physical output as well. So through that, I learned how to punch cushions. So when I was mad, you know, like when I was really upset and I was angry, like when one of my daughters got married, God, I was so angry. And the sofa took a bit of a beating, you know. And I'd do it with my forearms, you know, doing that thing with my forearms. Because you have to be careful you don't hurt yourself. I know I have hurt myself in the past, releasing anger. I was on a low bed and I threw myself backwards and I felt my back not like that. So if you're releasing anger, do be careful, because it's in that physical way, it can, you know, you can hurt yourself and physically hurt yourself. And yeah, so that was the anger release, you know. So I've learnt how to process my anger without, what I used to do was letting it leak out passively aggressively on other people, and also you know, yelling at people, and even when I was younger, hitting people. You know, that's how I used to process my anger, because that's how my dad had processed his on me. You know, that's what I learned. So unlearning these patterns that we have is really tough. And so now I can process any anger I feel. And I can process the sadness I feel. And the sadness does... I'm not so angry these days. It does leak out occasionally, but not as often as it did. But my sadness, I can definitely go into sadness. And right in that moment, my world has ended, you know. It does feel like, you know, and I've lost the judgment of myself around it, because I think all of us, everybody on the planet, when they go supermarket shopping, when they go to the cinema, wherever, we're all carrying loss. We're all carrying some sadness. And yet most of us just bottle it in. So it is a bit of a new world order to actually, as mostly elder women in here, who are in our elderhood, in our crondom, in our wisdom years, we know this stuff. We know this shit. And it's up to us to, if you want to share it with the world so that it gives other people permission to do the same, to learn how to do the same. We're so bloody repressed. We're so just like, look on the happy side, feel into the joy, think happy thoughts, don't think miserable thoughts, you know. And it's a huge denial, a huge denial. It's not wise, it's not smart, and it's not healthy. And to release your feelings is uncomfortable, not very encouraged, it's not popular. And yet it's so needed. It's so needed. A lot of people go to funerals and they're unpacking, and even then we don't cry properly, you know, we don't weep and wail. We've lost our life with somebody in that coffin, you know. We have. And we're expected to wear black and just have a dab our eyes with tissues and not be this wailing mess that they do in some other countries where they've lost a loved one. You know, and to be there for each other, to look each other in the eyes. And we never did. My siblings with my dad and my mum, we never actually stood in a circle and looked at each other in our eyes and honoured our parents in that way. But not just that, honoured ourselves in that way. So that was a long one, and I've got to go because I've got a coaching call at past with somebody, with a client. So I think I might upload this onto my YouTube channel. There's other bits and bobs on there if you want to have a look. And oh, look at you all. Yeah, we're not alone. We're so not alone. I'm obviously having a bit of a grief blob today for a few days. See how long it stays, and it keeps coming back occasionally, but they don't last as long, you know, and I can move through them so much easier. It looks whatever it looks like to you, it looks like that. And for me, it's such a blessing to have been able to harness these emotions and ride with them. I'm so blessed to be able to do that. I love you lots. Thank you for your support, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.